This is Express Leads. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Express Leads. I'm your host, Paul Brady. And today I have Justin Dion joining us from HomePoint LLC. And he is a third-generation real estate agent and founder of HomePoint. HomePoint, in case you're wondering, is a complete real estate solution company where they help out homeowners that want to sell in any way they can, typically involving HomePoint buying their home or perhaps listing it on the market and helping the homeowner find their next place. So I just want to take a second to say welcome very much for joining us, Justin.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I'm super excited to be here and tell you guys a little bit about myself and a little bit about our marketing, what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great place to start. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about your business?
Yeah, definitely, Paul. So, again, my name is Justin. I've been a third-generation real estate agent. So I got involved with real estate as an agent about 3 years ago, meeting my broker and really being introduced to the game from one of my professors out in college. I went to Westfield State University and I studied marketing. But realistically, I've been always driven to real estate. My father was a real estate broker. My grandfather was a real estate broker. My mom was an agent. And so I've been really encompassed and surrounded around real estate my whole life. But actually, my parents weren't the one to introduce me to it. My parents both got out of the game over in 2007, 2008 with the whole recession happening then. So they decided it was time for them to go into a different sales position and getting out of real estate, where it was a good time to do so. So I had to kind of find my own way into real estate. And luckily, I was gifted with the right mentors along the way, meeting my broker. That was my past broker, no longer my broker now, but was a great influence and taught me everything I needed to know about how to really service our clients, how to find clients, and really how to brand and market myself to be a respectable realtor in the game.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So what we decided to do was I sat down with one of my other associates at the brokerage, and I told him at this point in time the brokerage is over in Western Mass, and I was from Eastern Mass. I told him that I really want to go back home and service that area because that's where my sphere of influence is, and that's where the people I know, and that's where I want to be ultimately. Nonetheless, the property values over in Eastern Mass are much more higher than Western Mass too, meaning you'll get paid more off commission. So it only made sense to really branch off over to there. But as I was, talking to my associate there, him recommending me to go make that leap and go back home and go start over there, I also realized where my true passions lie. And what I mean by that is, helping people buy and sell real estate is great. I love doing it, but the real reason why I love doing that is I love teaching the consumer about all the different processes along the way and educating them, because that's where my true interests are. I love educating, mentoring, and helping people. And so I also had a really strong passion of owning my own real estate properties, my own investments. So I want to combine those two together and grow a company. So I actually sat down with some of my closest friends and people that I know that were hustlers, and I told them about this idea I had to kind of create a company that focuses on a team approach towards investing, where we can sit down with the homeowner, offer them an array of solutions, from offering them a cash offer for their home so we can buy that property cash as an investment property, and then we could either make some money on it for a fix and flip or add it to a rental portfolio, helping out another family, or we can offer them a solution where we could list their home on the market, or we can offer them a creative financing solution. So all in all, we want to just become a one-stop shop for real estate for a homeowner, where we can take care of everything for them because we're going to build a team around it where everyone uses the McDonald method approach. And what I mean by that is you have someone on the grill, you have someone in the cashier, and you got someone wrapping the burgers and making sure it's ready to go. That's the only way you're able to make a burger in a minute or two. So that's what we wanted to do here in real estate, is we want to make it so we're a one-stop shop and we make it super easy, stress-free as possible. And we're really able to help out the consumers along the way. And it fits in our best interest as well. So, our long-term visions align with really helping people long-term. So right now, we have HomePoint. We are associated with eXp Realty, and we have a team out of there. And that's our real estate agency side of stuff. But actually, we're in works right now to starting our own brokerage, so we can really provide our maximum allowable solutions for our clients.
So talk a little bit more about that, because I was going to ask you, it seems like as a one-stop shop, right, listening to what you're saying, with EXP Realty being the realty, the real estate side of it. But you also, it sounds like you also have, an investment property type of thing where you help people who are interested in investment. So would you talk a little bit more about that? Because it seems like, um, and let me actually add another question to that. Do you think that gives you more differentiation in the market as far as other realtors?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Paul. I love to answer that one because that's something that really I think does make us stand out in the marketplace. Typically you're either one or the other. You're either an investor or you're a real estate agent or a realtor, in other terms, and that really minimizes what you're really allowed to provide for your client when you're talking to a homeowner, right? And sometimes if you say you're an investor and you sit down with a homeowner, sometimes your cash offer might not be the best solution for them, and you might persuade them to do that because it's in your best interest. But although there might be a solution where you can still get compensated for helping them, and it might be in their better interest. So I think that really does make us stand out, Paul. And I think that's going to be a huge differentiating factor. And that's, again, the reason why we want to start our own brokerage, so we can really maximize on this and really be a different staple in the environment of real estate. Real estate's crazy right now. There's a lot of different things happening, a lot of new innovations. At the end of the day, like, we want to come in and change it for the better. And, we pride ourselves on, sitting down with the client, going over their complete situation, figuring out exactly what we think, would be a good solution for them. And nonetheless,
Right.
we tell them all the different solutions. We say, hey, listen, here's A, B, C, and D. I think, here's pros and cons of each. I think you should do this, but it's really up to you. And we kind of just walk away and we let them decide, talk to their family members, no pressure. And at the end of the day, they'll call us up typically. And since we are that one-stop shop, we're able to help them out in all these different facets. They're going to probably work with us on one of these solutions. And if not, that's okay too. At least we're there for a resource for
Right.
them, and we're able to help them nonetheless.
So can you talk a little bit about, given everything you just said too, and I'm thinking about the current climate, right? So we spent the last year and a half in a pandemic, and so what impact has that had on what you're trying to do? I mean, was it, because I've noticed some people actually thrive during the pandemic, and some people, obviously not. So can you go in a little more detail on that and tell us, the listeners, what how the pandemic affected your business, whether one side was stronger than the other or it was a general type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. Excuse me. So we pretty much started this business in the middle of the pandemic. We started this business where we really got everything like off the ground, got our office, at the beginning of 2020. But we didn't really start like our LLC wasn't filed until mid 2020, literally in the midst of the pandemic. So although there was a bunch of hurdles because of it, it was really put us in a position that we're able to help a lot more people. And because there was a lot more people affected, people are in tough situations
Right.
right now. Landlords are having homes that their tenants aren't paying, making them not be able to pay for their mortgage. And it's very tough for another investor to come in and solve that problem for them, because then they're going to take on all those problems as well. And they can't evict the tenants if they're not paying. So it's just, there was a whirlwind of problems for a lot of people. And actually, our company was a way to solve those for a lot of people. So it was actually, I don't want to say the pandemic was good, because it was obviously, a terrible thing that happened, but we were able to go in there with our business, and it actually benefited our business. We were able to help a lot more people because a lot more people needed our help. So I think there was, we were there at the right time. And I think
Yeah.
we're going to be there I can't say a right time, because it's the opposite of that. I think things are going to get troubling in the next couple of months in real estate, because at the end of this month, which is I think 2 or 3 days now, I don't know when this gets launched. It probably is already going to be there, where the eviction moratorium is going to be lifted, meaning that you can actually go ahead and evict your tenants. Which
Right.
means there's going to be a lot of influx of inventory to the market, kind of changing the dynamic of the market right now. Because right now in real estate, we're in a seller's market. And the reason for that is supply and demand. There is a way higher demand where people want to buy homes versus what's actually in the marketplace. So now what's happening is, say I want to go sell my home. Great, I can sell it. I get a really good amount for it because there is so much demand in the marketplace. I'm getting more than it's worth. The problem is, Paul, I don't have a home to move to. I want to go buy another home and there's nothing else in the market. So now I have to go overpay for another property. And I'm in a situation where my home is sold, so I need to go move. And that's causing the prices to increase at an exponential rate. But what's going to happen over the next couple of months is there's going to be an influx of inventory hitting the market because people are going to be able to evict their tenants, meaning that our solutions isn't not going to be too necessary for them, although we can buy these properties because we're in the situation to do so. But really that one-on-one hand-on experience, they're just going to probably go put it on the market, or who knows. But
So
it's
let me
interesting.
ask you a question though, Justin, because you talked about how you're in a unique position during the pandemic to help people when you had property owners who had tenants who weren't paying, they couldn't evict them, there was an eviction moratorium. Can
Yep.
you dig in a little bit, explain exactly how you're able to help someone in that, like I'm assuming a property owner you're talking about in that position?
Yeah, so great question. We do work with a lot of landlords that are, tired of being landlords, if you want to go there. And especially with everything going on right now, it brings a lot more angst into owning real estate for money. A lot of
Right.
people become real estate landlords by accident. They own a property and they kind of fall into it and they're like, all right, I'm gonna go buy another home, but maybe I don't want to sell this one, or I'll let a family member live here. And then the family member moves out, and then instead of selling it, they rent it. Or, a good friend wants to move in and they start collecting cash that way. And actually, that's a lot of people. And it's a great way to make good income because real estate is a great vehicle to make a lot of money and to build long term financial wealth. But a lot of people don't want to deal with the stress and the anxiety that comes along with owning real estate. And that's
Right.
where it lies. So, we're dealing with homeowners homeowners that own real estate investment properties that don't really want to own real estate investment properties. Now they have a tenant that's not paying because that person got laid off from their job or they can't work because of COVID. So it's a terrible situation for everybody. Now this homeowner can't pay their mortgage because they're not getting any money from the tenant, and maybe they even lost their job too. So this is just all in all a tough situation. Now, although the government's giving us an influx of stimulus with stimulus packages and unemployment benefits and all that, there's still a lot of people that are, even if they're getting unemployment, not paying rent because they don't know what's going to happen. And I can completely understand it from all sides. Like I understand from being a tenant there, they're scared,
Right.
and,
Right.
and if you're a landlord, like you're in a tough situation too because you feel bad for your tenant. You obviously care for them. They're people. They're going through a tough time. Everyone is, and you're in a tough spot. And we're able to come in a situation like that and take that stress off their hands. Either buying the property ourselves, connecting them with one of our investor partners, which we have a influx of investor partners that work with us that are dying to find good opportunities to invest in real estate. Because again, there's nothing else out there. There's no other deals out there for them to find. So we source them head on.
I see. So you're able to either purchase a property or get an investor to help uh, someone that invests. Like it might be a valuable property that's just distressed right now because of tenants not paying, but otherwise it's an extremely valuable property. So that's where I'm assuming like an investor would come in, right?
Yeah, of course. Now there are some obviously, yeah. So there's some cons to that. You're not going to get as much money as if there was no tenant in there than versus a tenant that's not paying, of course. Because now we got to buy that property, we're going to hold on to it, wait till the eviction moratorium lifts, and this whole time we're holding this property and taking on all those expenses. So there's a trade off there, of course. And at the end of the day, we are in this to make money, although to help people. So there is that trade off. You're most likely going to get less money if you sell it with the tenant in there that's not paying, of course. But at
Right,
the end
right,
of the
yeah.
day, it helps them. Otherwise they could lose the house. Go into foreclosure.
So you mentioned, let me change gears for 1 second here, Justin. You mentioned you're talking about different people, right? And I'm trying to figure out who an ideal client might be for you.
Sure.
So we've talked about landlords, we've talked about working with investors. So walk through it with me a little bit and describe who you think an ideal client is for you and why.
Sure. So I've broken down a couple character avatars in the past, trying to identify our ideal client. And we have a couple different ones, and there's a couple different people in which we're trying to target for different things. So our main thing right off the bat is obviously trying to find people that are in tough spots so we can provide our maximum amount of solutions, right? Someone that either needs to or wants to sell a lot. So someone that's we target people based off of these different scenarios. Actually, people that are possibly going into foreclosure. Maybe they are going through divorce. Maybe they are just behind on taxes, and not target them in a sense that like we're trying to find them. We're trying to find them so we can really provide them a solution to help them, because a lot of people don't know about us and they don't know about our solutions that we can offer them. So we're trying to go find these people that are in tough situations so we can provide them a solution. Now, this could be just someone that owns a house by themselves, which we call owner occupant, or this could be an absentee owner, meaning more of like a landlord that doesn't live at the property. Maybe it's a rental or it's even vacant. So they could own, or they could live there themselves or not live there. At the end of the day, typically it's someone that's in a tough situation. But even then, if they're not, and they just want to sell to maximize on the market right now, again, that's another ideal client for us, because we can list their home on the market and get them top
Right.
value dollar for it.
So for someone that's in a um, distressed situation, someone that is maybe a bank has started foreclosing proceedings. Obviously, with the type of services you offer, you're offering them the opportunity to just as an example maybe have a default on their credit profile, but not a foreclosure. One being much worse than the other. Obviously, is that correct?
Yeah, what I really like to consider ourselves, Paul, is like, we're advisors. At the end of the day, that's like our main job. And that's what I always position every single person in my company to think like. You're there as a resource to help everybody in any of their situations. So first and foremost, that's what we're there for. If you're going through a foreclosure, I'm going to sit down with you and I'm going to go over literally all 8 options I have for you of ways where you can keep your home, ways where you can, ask the bank for help, where, you can get you can short sell it, if you're behind and you're underwater, where the home isn't worth as much as you could sell it for in today's market. That's when you go to the bank and ask them, say, hey, listen, I have someone wants to buy my home, but it's less than I owe to you. Would you accept it? There's an array of solutions, right? And some of them we don't get directly benefited from. But nonetheless, we're here to help people. That's why I like to call ourselves more advisors and home solutionists more than anything, because
Okay.
that's our mentality when we go into working with our clients, is we're there to help one way or another.
So what do you I like to ask this question a lot because I feel like it says a lot about um, a direction you take is from a marketing standpoint. But
Sure.
when you're talking to your clients, what are some of the most common questions that you hear from someone that is a new client or a prospect when they reach out to you when you talk, or you reach out to them, you talk to them on the phone or in person?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. It's different for every client, I'd say, because a lot of them want to know about like maybe our experience level, how experienced we are in this, so they can
Right.
understand that are we going to be the ones that actually close on this like we say we will. So sometimes we get questions based around experience. Others, a lot of it's situational based for them. So it's like, if I sell this home to you, where am I going? Or like, how am I going to find my next place? And I love that question, because we handle that all the time, and we go and find the person in their next place if need be. Um, so a lot of it's situational based and figuring out their own situation. For foreclosures, for example, obviously they're going to have questions based off of foreclosures, and we'll sit down and advise them as much as we can. Um, a lot of it has to do with situational based. That's
Yeah,
really,
I mean, so
you
if
know.
you think of it from, if you, so Justin, if you think it from the perspective of um, the most common things people ask you all the time, right? About, um, things that if you were, a phone banking, right, and you were answering calls on behalf of a business, some businesses get the same questions over and over. Where do I find this form? How do I download this service? How do I, where do I start? What is the process? Give me an overview of the process. I mean, anything like that beyond the situational. Is there anything that you get the same questions over and over, even if they're like mundane things like how do I reach you? What are the, proper forms that I fill out? What government agencies or state agencies do I deal with? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. And I think the reason why I'm having a hard time thinking of an answer is we do a lot of outreach marketing where we're the one asking the questions. And what our job is try to figure out their situation so we can try to provide them a solution. So I feel like that's, for inbound marketing, which we do some of, which we haven't really mastered yet by any means. The
Right.
questions that we would get, would definitely be around experience. If, if we're talking about the possibility of listing a home, they're obviously going to ask questions about commission. How much do we charge? Have we had any past deals in that area? What do we do to market the home? Which, we have a whole presentation on our marketing and how we go about that. Um,
Okay.
Let me think. I think that's kind of it.
Well, so okay, so let me let me ask something related. What do you think your how do you identify your niche? What do you believe your niche is, and
Sure.
what do you
Yeah,
focus on?
that's a great question. Typically, we focus on people, homeowners, between 40 years old plus that are in a tough situation and need to sell. One way or another. I think that's the best way to describe it. And our real solution to that is we have a plethora of solutions for them, and that's kind of our niche. It's the best way to put it, in my opinion.
Okay. Do you, since you jumped into demographics a little bit, is it mostly, so you're saying 40 plus, so between 40 and 65?
Yeah, yeah, yep. I would say so. 40, 65. We deal with a lot of single people, but I don't think that really differentiates between the lot. But
Men or women mostly, or?
it's a mix, I'd say. There are a lot of males that reach out to us, possibly that are going through divorce. So we deal with some of those, which obviously is a single demographic, male. And it's tough again because we again do a lot of outreach marketing. So we're targeting based off of potential motivation, not based off of demographics. And the thing with
Right,
us is
right.
we work all over New England and even out of state. If there's someone that wants to sell out of state, if they want to sell and they're talking to us, we're gonna find them a solution. If we can't buy it, we have partners all across the nation that are investors that will love to buy a good deal anywhere.
Right. And the reason I ask about demographics is because it's not the only thing you target, but it helps narrow your current targeting. So for instance, if you're targeting, let's just say well, you're targeting homeowners, right? So if
Yeah,
you're targeting homeowners, you could just target homeowners, but you get a better return if you're targeting homeowners that are between 40 and 65 with a 50% male, 50% female,
definitely.
you know, or even just leaving gender off since it seems like it's a wash. So you just say 40 to 65 plus. That it helps narrow it down because if you're on something like Facebook or other ways that you're advertising, Google and stuff like that, is a huge difference between homeowners as an audience for advertising versus homeowners that are 40 to 65 plus. Um, you know,
Oh,
and obviously, if you can find you can define interests as well. So if you're on Facebook, I don't know off the top of my head. I always have to be in Facebook to see what they have and don't have. It seems like that changes from time to time, but you can go in and you can find things based on interest too. So if you're looking for people that are interested in investment, you can hit homeowners 40 to 65 plus. Maybe they're interested in investment because maybe they're house flippers, right? I mean, I'm
yeah.
assuming based on some of what you told me, you probably part of your audience might be a house flipper.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's our other side of the token. There is where we work with. Obviously we're realtors, and
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if we don't want to buy the investment, we could always ask one of our investor partners if they want to buy it too. Yeah, 100%.
Right. So you talked a little bit about outbound marketing, which is what I think you referred to as you know um, uh, outreach marketing, right? That's
Outreach
outbound,
marketing.
really.
Yeah, outreach marketing. Yep, my mistake. Yep.
So most of what I do is inbound marketing, and um, so inbound's a lot more effective than outbound. And the reason is that people are coming to you because there's something that you've done that it's almost like fishing, right? You put a hook in there with a worm, and the fish comes to you because it wants the worm, right? It's hungry, and it looks good, right?
Oh,
You
I
had a good
agree. Yeah,
message.
yeah. I
So
think that's the
inbound
best way
tends
to
to be
go.
about like 75% more effective than outbound
Mhm.
because you get phone, and I used to years ago. I did a lot of outbound, and it just was a lot of hangups, a lot of I had my own calling software and stuff. I used to use something called Phone Burner, which
Oh
is
yeah, I'm
still
familiar.
around.
Oh, it is. Yep.
It's way, way more expensive now than it used to be. It used to be like $30 or $40 a month. Now it's hundreds of dollars a month, I think.
Yep.
But back then, you could do a script and do all this stuff. But the thing is, it's not as effective as dropping something, and then pushing traffic to it by, dropping an offer and pushing traffic to it by way of either, Google ads, Facebook ads, maybe solo ads, which are a fancy way of saying that you're renting a mailing list from someone, either someone in a similar niche as you, like a real estate lawyer or someone like that, or you go off to something like a service like Udemy.com or Traffic for Me or something like that, where they have people that own very large lists for, especially, the health and wealth sectors are very popular. So you can hit things like, house flipping would be something you could look at making money through real estate or making money online. Those are types of things where you don't even have to, do the targeting that you would through Facebook, which you spend a certain amount of money getting the right people to join your mailing list. Whereas this person, the solo ads, already have the mail list you need. So, but inbound, just as an example, um, is something where you just have a call to action out there and a landing page. People come to it. They see, a good example might be learn the top 7 mistakes of real estate investment and how to avoid them. And
Oh,
someone will say, "Well, I want to see that," so they click it and they go to your landing page, which is not on your website. It's a separate landing page with no distractions, no navigations, no other sidebars with images or links or anything. Just a landing page, and it says get your free ebook today, and it looks similar to what you had in the Facebook ad. You put in your email, and that's all you can do. You either put your email in and click submit, or you close the window. So that's pretty effective at getting leads. And then what happens is people come in and they're added to your CRM. So you use ClickFunnels or Get Response or both sometimes, or Active Campaign or whatever it is you use something like that, and they start getting emails from you because people don't act usually immediately on an email. It usually takes 3 to 7 times for someone to see your brand or offer to act on it. So, but the difference, right? The difference is that you just put something out there, right? Just like fishing, you just put bait out there and you're waiting for people to come to you. Now, those people to come to you are far more likely to not only stay on your mailing list, but to purchase from you or contact you, depending on what you're selling, what your service is. So, people to come in for an ebook like that, then you send them, you do like a funnel stack where you send them from a simple opt-in funnel where they get an ebook in exchange for their email to another funnel. It says, hey, your next step on the thank you page. You go there, and the next funnel has got maybe something with a little more juice in it, right? I mean, they come in and say, hey, we've got this course that we offer, $27 or $47 on simple points of house flipping. And so you might come in and do that, or property investment. And then it might lead to a phone call, right? And so you kind of have a low ticket item that's $7 or $14 or something like that. And the front end, you're not going to make money doing that, but you do it because it helps pay for your advertising. And then the big offer, the higher ticket offer things are when people reach out and talk to you, like you get them to get on the phone with you or have them set up something on Calendly.
You think that's a good idea, Paul, for a service-based company like mine instead of like a product-based company?
Oh, definitely. I run a service-based company and I do it.
Okay.
I mean, let me, yeah, let me ask a related question. So do you have a mailing list?
No, I haven't done mailing yet at all. If you want me, I could break down what I have done for like online marketing if you'd like, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, in one sec, I just want to hold on to the mail for a minute because,
Gotcha.
um, that's, and I always apologize to my listeners because I say this over and over again to people, but it's so important. It's like the money is in the list. That's where
Mhm.
the money is.
Yeah.
And so for you, a mailing list represents referrals from current clients. It represents people that maybe are on your list. They haven't unsubscribed, but they haven't bought or done any of your offers yet, right? There are people that if you're good and you send out, consistent emails every week, because again, you can't just build a huge email list and then ignore it for 6 months, because what happens is you'll send an email out 3 months after someone signs up and they'll say, what's this? And they'll unsubscribe because they don't even remember.
Right.
So if you're good about that, you'll keep your unsubscribe rate low. You'll maintain the list that you have, and 6 months down the road, after sending emails out, let's say you have 3,000 people or 10,000 people on your list. There's a certain percentage of those people that at some point may act. They just weren't ready to act before.
Right.
So, and referrals are like a huge thing for most businesses, including realtors, right? So someone that knows something, you could be sending out a Black Friday special saying that, hey, we're offering X percent bonus for people that send someone our way, or we're offering a free, service, or a free, um, if you do property management, or if like you may have partners that you work with, like property managers and people like that. So you can be sharing valuable data with folks that are interested, or maybe even sharing courses that you did on house flipping or on investment, that you can easily do just by creating YouTube videos and posting them in a locked area that you give people access to. Um, those definitely work for service-based businesses, because I've worked with financial advisors where they come in, they opt in, and go straight to a Calendly and it says, "Hey, subscribe here, set up your phone call today." And then what you do is when they do that, you send them a thank you, and on the thank you it says, "Hey, why not jump to the head of the line?" And you have your cell phone on that page. It says, "Don't wait for our meeting. Call today, right now." And that's how you get engagement. That's how you end up scheduling people. That's how you get folks both on your mailing list, but also talking to you on the phone. And there's different ways to do it. As a service-based business, you could also do something in a webinar where you redirect people to a live webinar or a live seminar where you and several of your partners or members of your organization, on a Zoom with 400 or 500 people, talk about your service or your business, and getting people, with a call to action at some point during the webinar where people can join, a course that you have set up, or join in discussing details more about what maybe they're thinking. Because if they're in your webinar, or if they're joining you in some, or want to join you on the phone for a call, they're interested in what you're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste their time setting any of that stuff up. So you start off with a free book. You may or may not have a low ticket offer in between, and then you go to a phone call or a phone meeting. And that's a very typical thing for like a financial advisor, for instance. That's done a lot. And so, like, I don't have products. I do web design. I do search engine optimization. I do inbound marketing, where I set up funnels for people and all that stuff. None of those are really products,
Right.
but I do them all the time online, and that's how you get people. Um, but yeah, to answer your question, I think it's absolutely worthwhile doing that, because the number one thing you really, really need to do is build your mail list. You really need to have an email list, because um, those people represent money over a short and a long period of time.
Definitely. Yeah, I could definitely agree with you about the inbound marketing, and that's something that we've been trying to focus on over the past 2 quarters, as we realize that outreach marketing is only so much, and we can only go so far with it. And I think if we had a honestly, if we moved completely to inbound marketing, it would be instrumental towards our growth and scalability. So I can completely agree with that. And I'm glad that you stayed on the topic of the mailing list and stressing on the importance of it, because it's definitely it's stapled in my mind that I really have to focus on that a little bit more now, which I can definitely appreciate. And I thank you. I thank you for diving into that. So let me ask you this, Paul. I got a question
Sure.
about it. So say I set up this funnel tomorrow, right? I have a website. I already have landing pages. That's all set up essentially. What would you know my business now a little bit? What would
Sure.
you recommend as like our first grabber low ticket item that we could charge and sell essentially, so that could cover our expenses of the advertising?
Well, so the first thing you want is something free to get people on your list, and
Gotcha.
then redirect them to a low ticket item. If you want to, you can also just redirect them to a meeting. So that's up to you too, because if you get in a meeting with someone, let me ask you this question. If you get in a meeting with someone, and you're talking with them about this, and they wouldn't be calling you unless they're interested. What
Right.
is, what is your conversion rate on a phone call?
Um, so probably get about 3 leads, 4 leads a day out of 8 hours of calling from my virtual assistants that call. So I'm not sure. They probably call about 1,000 phone calls a day, and they're getting about 4 leads from that, and it takes 8 hours to do that.
Right, but the conversion rate's the sale. How many sales do you get from the people that actually want to talk to you?
Right. Yeah. I gotta break down those numbers a little bit more. Just because we're so new, it's hard to break down the numbers
Okay,
in a
yeah, no
meaningful
worries.
manner.
So let me switch gears for a sec. So to get back to your question, um, I think that, and part of the reason I was asking you, what do you think the top three questions clients ask you all the time, is because that's the kind of material that makes a really, really great ebook.
Ooh, I love it.
Because
Yeah.
what you do, and this works in any niche, including yours, of course, um, your the ebook is really doing something important, and people look at it and say, "Oh, this is great. This is information that I could really use." But from your perspective, the ebook is always either helping someone with a problem that they really want to resolve. It's like sometimes I'll go out and do keyword or research on Ahrefs or something like that, where I go off and normally you do it for SEO, but on Ahrefs you can go off and say, hey, find the most commonly asked questions about real estate on YouTube. And then you find the ones that are ranking the highest, which tells you, okay, right now, a zillion people are asking this question. Can I create a lead magnet that is related to my niche that answers this question? Or a series of questions if there's more than one. Because A, people are searching for it, and B, if you ebooks by far, which is funny because it surprised me way back when I figured this out, but ebooks by far are more, I don't know if you'd say tantalizing, or I don't know if that's probably not the right word, but they're more converting as far as getting people to opt into your mail list than anything else. Like the one mistake people make is like they'll say, "Oh, I'll give you a free consultation if you give me your email." Well, people don't care about that.
Right.
They want something that helps them with a problem, addresses a question, or helps them with a problem.
Immediately too, and the consultation
Yes.
takes time. They want to know now.
So that's yes. So you know your business better than me or anyone listening. So the question you have to ask yourself is for lead magnet, which is that the free ebook is, and you have VAs working for you. So if you outline a set of topics that you want answered that will address a question, a burning question from someone, you could have them do it for you. So probably, or even go to Fiverr or Upwork.com.
Oh yeah.
But to answer your question, you really want a lead magnet that is related to your niche and answers a burning question or burning questions or helps someone, like for instance, people that are, and I think you actually said something earlier that might also be an idea, right? So you talked about distressed homeowners, right? What's the next step? If you're a distressed homeowner, here are the top X number of ways that we can help you avoid a foreclosure, right? Because what you're doing is you're coming in and giving them an option by offering to buy their property instead of having them go into foreclosure, right? And that's a huge thing because once you're in a foreclosure, as you know, right? Once you're in a foreclosure with a bank or a mortgage company or whatever it is, right? A bank, I guess. You've got a default on your record, but you don't have to have a foreclosure on your record, your credit record. And
Right.
so, what does that mean? That means that a default will go away much quicker. You'll be able to go off and buy again or rent again when you're in better shape. And, people, it happens to people for different reasons. They have a death in the family. They, lose their job. They're sick and they have health bills that aren't covered. A lot of medical bankruptcies, a lot of things that will hurt people, right? But you could do an ebook on something like that, even saying that, hey, here's the top 9 ways to avoid foreclosure, even if it's already started. How to avoid foreclosure even if the bank has already started proceedings. You know,
Love that.
something like that.
Yeah. No.
Or how
Totally.
to, a common marketing, inbound marketing. So I do copywriting. So a common copywriting thing that you might have would be how to X without X. If you think of it that way, right? How to avoid foreclosure. Um, yeah, how to avoid foreclosure without uh,
Without selling your
damaging
home,
your credit or something.
without without giving up your home, with keeping your home, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you can help people keep their home, great. If you can help them by buying their property, then there are other things you can do, but that's the kind of thing you might want to do, right? Now that would be free. That would I would think would be your free lead magnet. So
Yeah.
people see an ad on Facebook or Google or solo email that goes out, right? And they see that. And by the way, you have partners and friends, and if they're willing to send an email out that you pen, right? And their property managers or their other folks, you can say, hey, do you mind sending this email out to your list? Because you and I do a lot of work together, and I think we trust each other at this point. And you wouldn't just do it with someone that doesn't know you, but you do something like that, and let's say they have 5,000 people on the list.
Right.
You're, if they're, they may or may not ask you for compensation for it. Some people might, like 50 cents or 57 cents a click. And you could figure out based on a maximum number of people you think might respond to something, right?
Yeah.
So if you go to udimi.com, udimi.com, they do something where they guarantee you the number of clicks you're going to get. So
Oh,
you
cool.
pay, yeah. So you pay for something like 500 clicks, right? And usually they'll over deliver, just because there's a certain percentage that might be bogus or, not people putting in the wrong email, stuff like that, right? So they over deliver. So you get 525, 550, something like that, right? And then from there, maybe you get about 300 opt ins from those 500 clicks. That's pretty good. I've got
Yeah.
results like that before by using services like Traffic for Me or Udemy or places like that, right? But again, they only work for certain things. If you're dealing with making money online, they're hugely popular in the health and wealth niches, right? So you do deal in the wealth niche because you're in real estate. So there might be some way to kind of do that by finding people to do that. But all Udemy and Traffic for Me do is allow you to rent someone's mailing list. If you have partners that have large mailing lists, they don't mind sending an email out for you or a series of emails out for you. Um, then they can't, unlike Udemy, they can't guarantee how many clicks you're going to get. So if they want to be compensated, you can kind of say, so the average I think I would get would be this number. So I'll pay you 57 based on maybe a return of 300 clicks. And they'll probably say done. So you spent 150 bucks, or let's say it's 1,000 people, and you spend like $300 or $400, depending on how much they literally want. It might be 30 cents per click or something like that. Um, and you get an exposure to a large audience. But as far as getting something up and running, service-based businesses are just as effective as products. The only difference is in a product, you might go directly to a sales funnel from within.
Yep.
You might funnel stack and add a sales funnel. That's why I'm saying if you wanted to add like a short video course on something that you could sell for $17 or $27, you could do that as well. But for someone that's just looking for, because some people literally are just interested in getting leads quickly and then setting up phone calls. And like I said, that is a typical. So that lead magnet we just talked about, right? Helping distressed homeowners, right? That will be something where you're targeting them specifically, and they're coming in, giving you their email. They're getting an email campaign afterwards that talks about basically what you want. Your goal might be, I just want to set up a phone call. So you send them 5 or 7 emails after that, one a day. And in the emails, you have a call to action that says, hey, and each one talks about, you might talk about the market, how tough it is, and the eviction and foreclosure moratorium, and how you're trying to help people in that situation. And each email would have a call to action where it's a button or a link within the email where they click to it, and they go back to Calendly, where they can set up a meeting to have a phone conversation with you. So instead of you calling people, you literally have people calling you.
I love that. Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, and
If you
there's
don't,
all. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was going to ask you, Paul, if you don't mind diving into that a little bit more about the email. So, like, if I could summarize this, if you wanted to either run
Sure.
an ad or get some audience one way or another through email lists or paying for it from another service or something. Essentially, it's bringing people to your landing page, where your landing page is set up for a free ebook where people opt in with their email, and that puts them in an email campaign run by maybe MailChimp or something similar.
Right.
So could you dive into a little bit? I'm sure your audience wants to know, and I certainly want to know, what type of content would you put in these emails other than, like you said, already mentioned, like call to action and obviously trying to get people on the phone or upsell them or anything like that. But what other content would you add? Just value add content any way possible, or what would you do?
Well, you always want to provide value if you can, right? So you've already given them an ebook, which is value, right? So if you're in the email, I can hit on a few quick things that are important first before we dive into some of the content of the emails. But
Okay,
or I guess a better way to put that is let me focus on a particular piece of the content in the email, right? So the first thing you really want to work on, and everything's about analytics, right? So depending on the software you're using, you can go in and see, how many people open the email, how many people click the link, and if you have 500 people go to an email and no one opens it, then you need to look at the email and figure out what's wrong and why people aren't doing it. But what's the first thing they see when they go for an email?
they see the subject.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny. I asked that question recently to a group of people, and no one got the answer. Yeah, they see the subject line. So the subject line is probably for an email is one of the most important initial pieces of copywriting you're going to have in your email, right? And I'll give you an example. So I had one where I did a set of emails for a nonprofit, and one of the emails had like in the beginning. And by the way, over time, sometimes you might get some audience fatigue if you're not hitting up uh, you know anything could have fatigue over a period of time, but if you're getting
Of course.
fresh traffic all the time, you should be okay. So I did one that said, I had a subject line, and in the subject line it said, um, I'll never forget the time, or how I totally bombed a job interview and came out on the other side. That it was something like that, but basically the operative phrase in there was how I totally bombed a job interview. That had a huge open rate. Lots and lots of people open that email because you know why? People basically like soap operas. They basically like, to know what's going on. Okay, why did this guy bomb? And it was a true story. And so I talked about how it's funny because it was a true story, but it's all perception. I didn't actually bomb the interview. I just felt like I had.
Gotcha.
And
Yep.
so I went into an interview expecting one thing, just to give you the high level. I went into an interview expecting one thing and was offered a job to do something completely different than what I was expecting.
Mm.
And because I didn't expect that, it threw me for a loop. I was totally unprepared for it. I was, because you go to an interview prepared. I
Oh
was
yeah.
prepared to talk about what I needed to do and how I could help the organization and why my skills work for this niche. And all of a sudden they're saying, oh, no, we want to do this. And I'm like, that isn't what you said on the phone. That isn't, I don't understand. So it was just kind of like, weird, right? Totally threw you for a loop. But the thing is, that got a high open rate. And then, right? And so copywriting is funny. And so when you're talking about goes in emails, it can't be every single email is buy my stuff. I mean, you can have passive and active calls to action, right? So you might have one particular email where it's a push. Like for this guy, it was a nonprofit. So it's a push to donate, right? But not every email is like that. Some emails are about what they're interested in the subject matter. Now, in this case, the nonprofit was talking about a livable wage for Americans, right? So the email was talking about, an introductory email might talk about how poor the situation was, and with income inequality in the country, and what the um, you know what the current statistics are on people. 1 in 4 people are in poverty in Worcester. That true statistic. Um, and you talk about some of these things, and because it's a nonprofit, right? The type of content I put in that email is you know it's a little different than the kind of content, or the purpose is a little different than the kind of content I put in for a for-profit company. And the reason is that I'm trying to make an emotional connection to the audience because they're potential donors. And so that email campaign had a couple of purposes: active and passive requests for donations. And by passive, I mean there's always a button at the bottom, the footer of the email that says donate today, but I don't always mention it. Sometimes I don't say anything about it at all. Other times I have it right smack in the middle of the email and I'm saying, we can change this if we work together today, but we need your help to create this kind of content. To, think about NPR, think about GBH, right? When they do their pledge drives. It's kind of like that, except in email. Now, for a for profit, it's not all that different. But instead of trying to make an emotional connection with a donor, you're trying to make a connection with someone who's passionate about what they're what interest they have in what you're doing. So for instance, an investor is passionate about investing in properties and making money and flipping houses and stuff. So you'd have to be touching on, that passion by telling them how passionate you are about, what you do, and and talking about, maybe even having videos where there's a 2-minute case study or something where you're talking about, learn how, um, you know, uh, someone gets an email, it's got a brief introduction and then a little embedded image of a YouTube video. When they click it, it goes to YouTube, right? But that video and the little introduction says, learn how Justin um, Dion, was able to take a house in distress and flip it for $50,000, something like that. So
Yep,
someone that's interested in that niche and reads that and sees that, they're going to click on that video.
definitely.
They're going to want to see what's going on. So you've done two things. You have some sort of a converting subject line that they click on to open the email, because again, they don't get to that cool copy and they don't see that cool image of the YouTube video if they don't open the email. So if you say, "Hey, check this out," no one's going to click that, right? But if you're saying something similar, like, and it's you're sending to like an audience that you've defined on Facebook as people being interested in investment or house flipping, right? Or maybe a solo ad provider that's the same, right? So you get the right audience. So you just have to have the message has to match the audience, right? And it can't be this general message where you're trying to hit on 6 things, because you're going to split your audience and it's going to split your conversion rate from people wanting to opt in. Because some people will be like, if you do an email campaign that talks about, one day talks about investment, one day talks about, you know, um, buying homes, one day talks about selling homes, you're going to get people that come in there because they're interested in investment. And when they get 2 emails that don't talk about investment, they're going to unsubscribe. It's that kind of a thing. So you have to kind of carefully think about how to craft your message, how to maintain that message, how to make that message appealing, both from a subject matter, a copy. It's all copywriting, right? But it's from a subject line in the email as well as the content. And it's a mixture of different things, right? They don't always have to read a long email or a short email. Sometimes you might have a little intro paragraph, and it might be a video that you want to send them to, or a podcast, or all that kind of stuff, right? So that's kind of what I would recommend. I would do is that, and I know that's a long-winded answer to your question, but the idea is being that you want to really have a message that matches your niche and your audience, and and you want to create that excitement and that passion, that that they're there about. If your messages are all like, I've been working for 15 years doing this. I know what I'm doing. I'm blah, blah. They're sleeping, right? They're
Oh yeah.
sleeping by that time. But if they know you're excited, especially in a video, and not everyone's good at video. So if you feel like you're not good at video, then do audio. And if you feel like, you have a hard time enunciating things that sound exciting and, oh, this is like, I got to tell you, this is the best offer that we've seen, da, da, da. You may not want to say it like that, but you see how you sound
Oh yeah.
enthusiastic. Some people, God bless them, they just can't do that. And I'm not like the best. I mean, I think Russell Brunson's one of the best at it.
Oh,
If you watch
certainly.
his videos, he's amazing at doing that. But all the good ones are, like Anthony Morrison's good. There are a bunch of people that are really good. But yeah, it's a lot of that. But we're getting close on running out of time. So if I can ask you a couple of quick questions about some of your other pieces of your marketing puzzle.
Yeah, that'd be great, Paul, for sure.
All right, so I know that so we've established, and I'll go back through and recap right before we wrap it up. But I want to ask you a little bit about your web and social media channels. Now I know you said you have a website,
Yep.
and you also, by the way, mentioned that you have like a landing page on your website or something, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's set up right now, but I could easily set it up for sure.
Well, so one recommendation I always make to people is never send people to your website for a landing page. Use a
Right.
separate piece of software to do that has absolutely no distractions on it.
Okay,
Um,
I can understand that. Yeah, so the landing pages I do set up, they are separate, even though it's through the same software. It is
yeah.
it is separated where you wouldn't be you. There's no way to go to the homepage from it. There's
Okay,
no way to
okay,
get
that's
off
good.
the
That's important then.
yeah, yeah.
Um, All right. So social media, right? Are you now? You mentioned you have a podcast, right?
Yeah, so let me break that down for you. We're for Home Point itself, we're everywhere in terms of where we need to be. You know, Google My Business, Facebook, and all the social media platforms in terms of our pages and providing consistent content on them. And a lot of so there's two different audiences which I'm trying to grow essentially. Where we have our website, which is obviously for homeowners, for people that want our solutions for our real estate agency and investing side of things. But also,
Right.
I'm a very big advocate for helping other agents and investors out. So that's what our podcast is based on. It's based on, we had good success in this space and we want to teach other people and share them our experiences along the way and also interview other top notch realtors and investors to share their stories. So there's kind of two types of audiences in which I'm targeting right now, where we have the homeowners and we have the agents and investors.
So the
So
podcast is agents and investors.
Exactly. It's not for homeowners. I do create videos for YouTube and I put on our website for essentially what you said earlier, answering the most important questions that a client may have for us. So I did sit down, write up every single question, which I probably should have thought of before, and I could even pull it up quickly. Where any question the client would have asked me, I try to make a video on it and broadcast it, which is good for SEO and good for just visual of seeing who we are and us answering the question and helping them out. We have a broad approach towards our social media online presence, and it's working pretty well. But we just started this, like I said, I've only been working on this for the past 2 quarters. So we
Right.
haven't had any exponential growth yet, but we have been getting leads on our website. We actually got our first one not too long ago, which was awesome. Went on the appointment, provided them a bunch of solutions, and they had a bunch of other people involved too, other people that were interested. So we didn't end up working with them, but it was awesome. It was awesome having the inbound lead, not us not having to actively, I should say, work for it. Although it was a lot of Upwork trying to get everything up and going with the website, setting it up.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but it is nice, and I'm very excited for the inbound marketing. And I think what you hit on today, definitely opened my eyes up, and I really appreciate you breaking that all down because it's definitely going to be something I'm going to be implementing.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
how I want to do it is I want to commingle those with our outreach marketing with our inbound marketing. So once I have this all set up with an ebook and everything, what I want to do is, we're talking to homeowners all the time, and some of them don't even want to sell right now. But we could just be like, hey, listen, since I'm on the phone with you, would you want to learn? Would you want a free ebook on people in this situation? Just for your own having. Get their email real quick and add them to that chain. So there's another way of growing our email list with marketing that we're already doing too, and kind of double ending it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So you mentioned. Let me just dig in a little bit here. So you mentioned Facebook. In Facebook, do you have your own page, or do you just use your personal Facebook timeline? Do you have a group?
Yeah, so no, we have a Facebook page, and that's targeted towards homeowners. We have a
Okay.
Facebook group that's targeted towards investors and agents.
Oh, yeah, yeah, excellent. So the group's private and it's invite only.
Yep, invite only. And that's like where we're sharing our podcast. We haven't really focused on that heavily, but I know it's something I want to do in the near future. Like I said, we're building a brokerage, and we have a bunch of other things where we want to attract agents and investors to work with us one way or another. So the more content we can provide for them, the more value we can provide for them, the more likeliness of them wanting to work with us, which is all the better.
So I should have asked you this earlier, but you said you mentioned this earlier too, and I didn't get a chance to circle back on it.
Sure.
So you're building a brokerage. You're talking about a mortgage brokerage
No, no. So
or
right
a
now I'm
financial
working.
brokerage.
Yeah, right now we're working at EXP and we have a team under them. That's their own brokerage, right? Like Keller Williams or Co Realty Banking. So we're going to open up our own brokerage that we're licensed under. We can have agents that work under us. And it's separate from the investing side because that's only for helping people buy and sell real estate as an agent with a real estate license.
Okay, so you're there to help people become either better realtors or new people to become realtors and get their license.
Exactly. And they'll work under our brokerage and we're like the supervision for the agents. They're as an agent, you're an independent contractor, but
Hmm.
for the first 3 years, if not longer, you have to be under someone else's company, someone else's brokerage. So we're opening up our own where people can work under us and we can educate them and work with them in the team environment. Hopefully we can commingle with a lot of the deals and stuff we're working on just to intensify and enhance what we're already doing.
Yeah, I hear you. And so, by the way, your podcast, if you have regular content on your podcast, a podcast is also a great thing, because once you do, so I mentioned earlier that you have this concept of, someone signs up, opts into something, and they get a series of emails from you, right? Well,
Yes.
it doesn't end there, even though you may have 5 to 7 emails. Obviously, the email campaign ends, right? But then you do something called a broadcast email, which is where you just go off onto your system, whatever your system is, and then you use the system to send email to the various lists on your CRM, right? So why do I say that? I say that because you already have valuable data that you can drop. So when you drop a podcast, I'm assuming like once a week, or I
Yep.
don't know how often you do it, but once a week, right? You
Yep.
can send a message out to your entire email list and say, hey, enthusiastic agents and investors. We just dropped a new version of our podcast where we're talking to so and so, realtor here, and he's going to share his knowledge and about and expertise in this specialized area of X. Join us here, and then you have, either an image or a link or however you want to do it. I usually do one, or if I do a link, that's fine. But if I do an image, I also always make sure I also do a link separate, just because some people won't click on an image for some reason. But
Right. Right. That
um,
makes
but
sense.
yeah, but you do that, and then you're doing a couple of things. You're increasing the value. You're providing value to your mailing list, and you're also increasing the listens that on your podcast.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's a great idea. What I'm thinking is I'll have two email kind of campaigns, if you will, or two email lists, one for agents and investors and one for homeowners. So it can be kind of separated, and I can create, like you said, consistent, concise content that's relevant towards the audience.
yeah, absolutely. And there's a little trick you can do too, Justin. If depending on how you bring people in. And inbound campaigns can be any number of things. I gave you a pretty simple one to do, right?
Yeah.
For one, but you could also do a survey where you
Yeah.
bring people in that are interested in real estate. You target them, and they could even come in off of a survey where they come in and say, are you interested? And you don't ask them if they're interested, like specific obvious questions. Sometimes you just ask them questions that lead you to a bucket, so you can segment your mailing list,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
someone comes in and you ask them, are you interested in purchasing properties as an investor? Are you interested in, um, real estate? Or you start, you kind of, I'm not doing a good job of describing this, but basically you start from a higher level and work your way down to something more from vague to specific. So you're starting off, you're interested in real estate. What kind of real estate are you interested in? Are you interested in, and eventually you're working your way towards whittling it down to whether they're interested in selling real estate, getting a real estate license, or if they're more interested in investment, or if they're more interested in selling or purchasing a home. And then once that happens, right, you send them to a different page. Each page could actually be the same page, but well, not the same, a copy of a page. So you're not killing yourself designing all these pages, but you do a
Yeah.
copy, but one has copywriting that's specific for investors and agents, and one has copywriting that's specific for people that are buying and selling. So you could say, you have something on that page that has them give you their email, and then that gets saved to one landing page gets saved to your bucket, two different buckets, right? One for agents and investors, and one for homeowners or sellers or buyers. And then once that happens, you have separate mailing lists or separate, I'm sorry, email campaigns for each bucket, and they're both automated. So when they first join, you might get a 7-day email campaign as an investor, and the people that are home owners, they're buying or selling, would have a separate bucket that talks all about things that are related to buyers buying or selling.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's called mail segmentation. You can segment your mail list. That's one way to do it. You can also do it just by Facebook advertising. You don't have to even be that fancy. You can just do different Facebook ads. One ad for investors and agents, and one ad for homeowners. And obviously, when people come in off of one ad, they go into one list, and the other ad they go in the other list. That's another way to do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a great idea, and it's been actually really a pleasure talking to you, Paul, because you definitely opened my eyes up to a lot and definitely gave me a lot of value here. I appreciate it.
No, I'm happy to. I'm really glad to reach out, and that you reached out and we were able to talk. So, one thing I do want to ask you before we get too far along was, before we wrap up here. Um, I know you. just to jump back on this, so you have a Facebook page, you have a Facebook group. They have different purposes. Those are all good. The other thing I just wanted to say is, I don't know if you do this or not, but do you join other Facebook groups and participate in them, groups that you don't run?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that's. I met a bunch of connections from that. In terms of, I mean, people I work with now, even I've met from Facebook groups and stuff. So I think that's a good thing to talk about, because it is a huge way to build connections one way or another, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'd say, in recapping here a little bit, it seems like from my point of view of everything we talked about, I think you really need to work on your mailing list. I think that's really important. I think you're going in the right direction, because you want to do more inbound than outbound, which I think is, and doing inbound doesn't preclude you from doing outbound, but just inbound's more effective, I think,
Yeah.
at bringing people in. And you're doing a podcast, which is awesome, because if you do one thing in a social media channel that you're really passionate about, and you do regularly, and you do a good job of, like again with the email, you don't want to do a podcast once a month or once every 6 months. You sound like you drop one every week. That's exactly the right thing to do. And there's other things you can jump on. There's like Clubhouse, and these aren't like, they're not things that I would say are particularly urgent, but it's just more ways to kind of get yourself out there and get more. It's almost like Clubhouse. I look at Clubhouse as being like the audio version of Facebook groups, right? Just a bunch of people doing stuff out there. That's not a bad thing to do. Twitter's not a bad thing to do. YouTube, it sounds like you already do YouTube because you have videos.
Yeah, we pretty much are everywhere. One thing that's really good about our podcast is we do a video as well. So we're able to chop it up and add it everywhere. We're able to make content for TikTok. We're able to make content for, Pinterest, even for Instagram, for Facebook, for all the different channels that content, we take it and chop it up accordingly for the content that it makes sense for, which is, it's pretty cool how we're able to do that. It's Gary Vaynerchuk's method of, taking one piece of content and turning it into 16 or 32 or whatever he does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny that, because you mentioned that earlier on, and it's one of the things that most people don't get. And it's really important is the, repurposing of content is what I call it. And
Yeah.
so you're, like you said, you're chopping up things in YouTube. But the other thing too is that, and I was talking to someone about this the other day, you take stuff from an interview on Facebook or an interview where maybe you're talking to someone on YouTube, or just something, an instructional video that you're doing something on YouTube. You can take the audio and repurpose it for a blog by transcribing it. You can repurpose it by taking the audio and using it for a podcast. You can do all sorts of things, where you could even have a podcast saying, hey, listen in on my recent sales call with so-and-so. And of course you have permission from the people you do it in, and then you just play it.
Yeah.
And people, if they're interested to listen, or they can look at the video. The video is less amazing. I've done sales calls where I've recorded them on Zoom, and they're not as they're far more interesting, I think, when you do them as an audio podcast, because people don't want to stare at the two of you talking the whole time. But video is very, very, very engaging. So doing both is really smart. And so not a lot of people do that. So kudos to you on that, and it sounds like, I know Gary Vaynerchuk. So, it sounds like you're following some of his teachings and stuff as well. And he's another guy like Brunson and Morrison, and these other guys, really knows what he's talking about. But yeah, I mean, so the last thing I before we wrap up is, I just want to ask you, how for the people listening, how do people contact you?
Oh, yeah, it's a great question. So if you're a homeowner looking to buy or sell a property, definitely reach us out on our website, sell@homepoint.com. And if you're someone that's looking to get involved as an agent or get involved with investing, you can definitely check us out on our podcast, The Home Point Experience. We're on Spotify and YouTube. And then if anything, you can look me up on Instagram, Facebook, and the whole nine, Justin Dion. And just feel free to shoot me a DM and connect with me, add me, and we can chat from there.
Awesome. I love that. So I just want to thank you again, and I'll ask you to hold off for a second when we end, just so we can talk a little bit more. But thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise, Paul. This has been very insightful, and I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you, man.
Thank you. This has been Express Leads, hosted by Paul Brady of Brady Consulting and Inbound Marketing. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to leave us a voice message by visiting anchor.fm/expressleads. Thank you.